Hello, quick video on the end of small game hunting at the local Coward Gun Club. I kind of told you about everything leading up to it, and indeed, it is the breaking of the triangle. It turns out George knew about Iris in the way that she knew that John had been going through countless other women, which isn't a surprise to us, but which was sort of a surprise to Iris. And yes, she goes out on the road kind of determined that she's going to live now, at which point, because like Chekhov's gun, the hillbilly skeet truck was shown earlier, hurtling along the road. Basically, we got this whole thing of Raj and Calv, hunting to get drugs to then get in the car, and Calv, of course, ironically being the one who didn't want to go in the car, and them starting to try and basically stomp Damien to death for calling Raj out on being a rapist, which point Omni whacks him over the head with a dryer hood, not a dryer hood, the hood of a stove, and so he's bleeding in the thing while Cal's rushing him along the road, maybe to go to a hospital, maybe. At which point he whacks into Iris, and Iris is tossed, and Olives finds her, and Cal, being the coward, one of the many cowards in this story, takes off, even after Olive has basically identified who's driving, and Olive's sitting with Iris, and Iris is, it's one of these, it's a literary story. Is Iris dying? Is Iris going to be found by her friend Iris, and Olive going to be found by her friend Joe? Or are the both of them going to freeze to death, and then maybe the pregnant Joe will freeze to death as well, and Cal will crash the truck and kill all of them, and I don't know, George and John will be completely fine because they are the most hypocritical couple of the lot. It is kind of notable that in the end that this Valentine's Day thing, Megan Gale Close does kind of hold out a little olive branch, saying like, oh no, there's some actual happy couples there. Amanda and her guy, Cal's sister, are actually kind of happy. Seems to be a decent fellow. And there's actually other couples there who are actually there for, maybe there would be actual joyful fucking or even lovemaking at the end of this Valentine's Day evening, and not kind of the sad, pathetic, angry, twisted, wrong way that it is for like a lot of the main characters of this book. So yeah. So, in some ways it's like, hey, Olive wasn't the one who got mowed down, which was what I was kind of bracing myself for. It's like poor Olive having gotten hammered by everything else. And, at the end there, the key probably big thing is Iris going, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're probably you're my half sister. that it turned out that that her father might be Olive's father as well, which is an interesting thing in itself, that they were to come to that meeting at the end, like they're not only friends, but they're actually sisters. Interesting. You know, I had some really kind of tough pulls through this book of like, just feeling kind of the despair of this book. Don't know if I feel that way at the end. It's definitely a tough book to get through, but also, it's a book where you go like, this is like a horrible thing about St. John's, but actually it's just kind of a horrible thing about the world, and about a lot of stuff, of how we treat, well, how half of the world's at least half of the world's population, women, are treated, uh, how the men are treated, how the women in our world can be implicated in this. Of many of them can be implicated in this, and supporting the men in how they act, and kind of struggles to do better, but also just like men who easily kind of cloak themselves in feminism while still doing shitty stuff. And how much I as a guy can kind of implicate myself still in that, of like you know I you try and kind of try and get these messages, you try and I try and internalize these messages, but you have to acknowledge that you still take advantage, as a guy, you still take advantage of a lot of the stuff in this world, and are enabled to do a lot of stuff in this world, and taking responsibility for that. It's one of these books of like, the Rajas of the world aren't going to read this book. Maybe the Johns of this world would read this book. But, trying to see, I think it's important that this isn't just one person's story. This is as like a wide cast. And it's one of these things that's striking about this book, is that Iris and Olive and John and George and Damien and Omni and Ben and Raj and Calv and Amanda and Susie and Joe, they're like, all these characters are living inside my head, and I can they're there for me. The book sometimes falls into kind of a little bit of heavy metaphor, where it's like, fishing lines and careening car crashes are a little bit heavy. But there's other times it's just like there's this kind of a soaring rhetorical anger, righteous anger in this book, which is really powerful. And Iris at the center of this book is a struggling artist, and is trying to, feeling like someday she's going to paint something that's going to capture all this and somehow redeem all this. And you get the sense that that's Megan Gale Coles talking to the reader, saying, I'm doing this for a reason, and it's not nihilism. It's there's a certain kind of redemption for the really abused and discarded and dismissed voices in this world, the women in this world, and a excoriating mirror of the truth of what others have done to these women, men and women have done to these women in this world. And like, hey, pay attention, look, see, take responsibility for this. So that's really powerful. Yeah, so that was Small Game Hunting at the Lcl Cwrds Gn Clb, which in itself might be, because Iris is that deer on that front cover, getting whacked by a car, and I can't say that in the main review, but it's sort of, that is a bit of a thumper in one way or another. And I don't know if that's on the nose or if that's just apt. And but I know that the kind of the angry jags that happen in this book, these characters, is really like the one after Olive's sexual assault, the one of Iris kind of trying to kind of wake up wake up, because she is caught in this as well. She is alienated everyone in her life. She's ruined her life by chasing after a lying sack of shit, John, who is milking the system every way he knows how to boost himself up. As kind of a primo example of this dude who's gotten by, who's gotten everything by exploiting this system, making him maybe the key villain and abuser in a book that's filled with abusers. It's like he is the nice guy who is, which makes him even worse than someone almost worse than someone like Roger, who is just straight up a rapist. I don't know. Yeah, both ruining lives. Well, okay, I'm going to stop there because I am just rambling on. Definitely lots of thoughts. Thank you, Megan Gale Coles. Interesting book. Affecting book. Hard book. Hard in a really good way.